And welcome back to Mixed Media. We're back with a classic, what has become a classic Arguing with Reddit segment, where we react to your hot takes online. It doesn't have to be on Reddit. We have a Mixed Media Podcast Reddit account. You can go ahead and follow us there if you want to shoot us a DM or you want to get us our attention to give us a hot take or something like that. We're on Reddit, so we're looking around, stalking for people's controversial opinions, or seemingly controversial opinions at least, that we can give our thoughts on as creatives in our respective fields. So before we begin, I guess we'll introduce ourselves real quick. So my name is Irving. I'm a media entrepreneur. I own a company called Ariella, and I'm also a filmmaker. What about you, Nathan?
Hey, I'm Nathan. I'm a game developer and a 3D modeler.
And we're Mixed Media. We are here every Friday doing our live podcast. It ends up becoming 3 podcast episodes that go out throughout the week. We're going to start doing that also with the Arguing with Reddit segment, at least see how that goes. And if you like that format, just let us know. So, yeah, I guess we'll just jump into it. So I'll make Nathan go first on this one.
All right.
So let's see what we got here.
Oh yeah, this is another post about horror games. All right, so it says the scariest thing to most people is existential dread, not the fear of death you can't picture from the safety of a comfortable gaming room chair, but the reminder that your choice is finite and only moves in one direction. Every moment you waste can't be recovered. Your greatest mistakes are permanent. And the person says this is an interesting take. And then someone goes on to explain examples of what that would mean, like finite ammo and stuff like that.
I see.
And having frequent autosaves so that the player can't go back and try something differently. So yeah, when I first read the original comment, the original comment saying that the fear is of existential dread, I wasn't really sure what they were talking about. Even reading the rest of their post, I wasn't entirely sure what they meant. Things that are made permanent. Is it more like, say, things like in The Walking Dead, or you make a choice and you can't go back on that choice or whatever? I wasn't sure if they meant that, or this person then explained things like limited ammo. And to me, that's not what makes it scary, because I don't think that's like I played Dead Space, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think I only ever ran out of ammo once, and then I just died, and then I respawned with ammo. You know, it's like that's not permanent. But there's nothing permanent about the game. Actually, there's nothing really permanent about any game. I don't really think that I can think of it. Undertale, I believe, is permanent in a way. So I guess there's some exceptions, but I think most horror games don't have a permanent thing like that. And autosaves are sort of a counterpoint. You can normally make multiple saves of a game, and then you can go back as far as you want to. I think a lot of people do that. So if they pick a bad choice or whatever it is, and they're like, "Oh, I shouldn't have done that," and they go back. It's frowned upon sometimes. Sometimes it's like whatever. Depends on the person. But they may choose to deliberately use autosaves to avoid just that, avoid permanent results of their actions. So I don't think the logic follows. But you see, like the post is relatively new, so the original was 21 hours ago, at least as of getting it. So I was kind of hoping that he was going to respond and ask or he's going to respond and say further what he meant, but he didn't by the time. So I'm curious to what he actually meant. I figure it's not the limited ammo thing. That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I think of when he as he was talking, I actually thought of The Last of Us, because The Last of Us has like a. And now I think about it, it's kind of like Dead Space 2, where it's like the game tries to make you feel constantly starved for ammo, even if you're not, like, if the game is going to be feeding you ammo anyway, but it makes you think that you should be thinking about every strategy that you take. Very limited situations in The Last of Us are you, I guess, forced to take a different strategy because you will not have the ammo. You won't have the ammo by the end of that part of a level or something like that, which I actually think is a shame. Actually, I mean, it has a different mode in it, so I'm not sure if the different mode, like extreme mode, or I'm not sure what it is, if they treat ammo differently or not. But maybe you would feel that more if like you had one bullet left and maybe you can't recover the level, like you said. Like maybe there's like some different way you have to go because you couldn't complete that. I don't know. Maybe that could be an interesting
Sounds
way.
like a lot of working to add to make that such a thing possible, to have like a separate way to go for those who lose run out of ammo, which you'd have to put on every area where there's an enemy that could use ammo, or if you allow your player to fire their weapon anywhere, then that means literally everywhere. It has to be possible to progress without any ammo, which is a kind of an L in terms of time it would take to make something like that happen.
Right, yeah. I mean, I would say it's probably the whole thing probably ties back into. Does this have a name in gaming development world, like the hard problem of death? Because that sounds like
Hard problem. I don't
like
know if it has a name. I haven't actually heard of many people talk about death, even though I find it like a problem. Like I don't like I don't know. It's such a weird thing sometimes when you die and it just like totally rips you out of the world. It's like, all right, you restart. It's like the tension is all released immediately and then you just start again and it's like, oh, okay. But yeah, I've never. It's like seems like a topic that one could talk about for a long time, but I don't think I really ever hear anything about it.
that's interesting because I feel like a lot of things that we talk about that are difficult in gaming comes back to like, well, you just kind of repeat the level, and in a lot of ways that like the hard, I guess, this hard problem of failure. I guess like how do you punishing is a lot harder in games than rewarding. I guess I don't know if you'd agree with that sentiment, but
I mean, should you even want to? I get what you're saying. Like you do bad, and then how do you? I mean, the go-to is that you die or you get to reset when you make like a fatal flaw, essentially. Yeah, I mean, I never thought about it in the way that like you can use an alternate punishment. I always thought about how can you construct a game where either one, perhaps story-wise, it makes sense for this to happen, right? So, for example, a classic example is the game Prince of Persia, where when you there's a narrator to the game when you die, the narrator is like, "Oh no, that's not how it went. This is how it went," and then you just restart, right? It's kind of a clever way of like explaining what happened, right? Um, but then there's also like as I was saying before, the tension part where feel like you have to perhaps you have to like I haven't thought about this enough, but it might be possible to just really cleverly craft levels and stuff like that in such a way where that whole tension roller coaster isn't like entirely destroyed and like derailed, or I don't know. I feel like it's definitely a lot of thought I can put into this, but yeah, I never thought about just removing death entirely and having some other type of punishment.
no, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, I see there's some people in the chat. So if you're out there, just I don't know, shoot us an emoji or something, and as we go along, you can insert your opinion, and we can chat and talk and whatever, and we'll have some fun. So just letting you know that we're listening, we're watching the chat, and we want to incorporate you in the conversation too. So yes, let's do a film Reddit post. So let's see. Is this also from you?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. This requires a bit of explaining. It's not all all there. So I can't remember what the original post was. Something about I looked up IMAX. That's what I looked up. Something about IMAX. But yeah, it was in. Was it in the new what's the new Marvel movie called Black Widow that they're talking about a change in aspect ratio during the movie? I can't remember, but essentially. The first one says, I don't see why only 22 minutes of the film will be in the expanded ratio. It'd make more sense to have either none of the film or all the film in the aspect ratio. Maybe it wasn't Black Widow, it was some movie. But yeah, some movie did that. And then second thing is irrelevant. Third thing mentioned WandaVision as a good example of using that in a particular scene. And then and then there's a link to a video, and that video I watched was from the Hunger Games, and it was a school scene where it's Katniss being lifted up into the Hunger Games, the actual Hunger Games, right? In like elevator thing. And at the start, it's like I don't know what the aspect ratio is, but it's wider than 16:9. because there's black bars on the top and the bottom. And then as she's going up, it gets dark, so you can't really tell. But then the screen like uh, heightens itself to be 16 by 9 proper, and then it continues on the movie. It's pretty seamless, and then the movie continues on. I don't know if it's forever, the rest of the movie, or for a certain time. The way I understand it from the comments on that YouTube video was that they switched to an IMAX camera at that point, and the Hunger Games, the part of the Hunger Games where Katniss is in the Hunger Games, is filmed with an IMAX camera. So right. Yeah, I was wondering if you thought about this.
Yeah, it's interesting. Playing with aspect ratios is a pretty ancient concept. I think I don't know what the first example of it is, but it's in a lot of TV and movies, and I tend to like it if it has a reason behind it. It's just another tool out of many. The composition is what changes the most. So I'll take two extremes for you. So if you go ahead and watch Ghost Story. So Ghost Story has a 4:3 aspect ratio show. It's like an old TV set sort of thing. If any of you are old enough out there to even know what that aspect ratio commonly looked like. And it's very square-like, which means that you can see a lot more of the top and bottom than you normally would if you're composing the face to be the same size in the frame. So you see a lot more like top and bottom than you normally would. It also means that the characters don't have as much room left or right to move before they literally get off screen. As opposed to, let's see, another film other people might know, like La La Land. That's not the most extreme in terms of wideness, but it's definitely wider than normal. La La Land is using an aspect ratio similar, I believe, to CinemaScope. And that's to mimic old Hollywood, but it also gives your landscapes a very wide field because you see a lot more to the left and right than you normally would with the same sized objects in the frame than with, like, let's say 4:3. So you can do it for many reasons. So like 16:9 is the thing that we see the most. Monitors, phones, YouTube, TV, most things are 16:9 that are not movies. Some movies are 16:9, but I don't think the majority are. I don't even think it's that. It's common enough, but it's not terribly common. So you could use it to try to mimic different mediums. So if you have a movie where the aspect ratio is like, let's say 21:9 instead of 16:9, so it's a little bit wider. That 21:9 might be interrupted in the middle of it when they're showing a scene from TV where they switch the aspect ratio to 16:9 to remind your brain of the news that you usually see on TV, the 16:9 news. Or you might find a 4:3 trying to be nostalgic. You might find a movie that's set in the 70s or not the 70s. It was terrible. Yeah, 70s, like 80s, where the movie is like 4:3 or something because it's supposed to be mimicking 80s TV or something like that. So, yeah, but I think there are a lot of films that also just use it purely creatively too. Like they'll squeeze or unsqueeze the ratio as well just to give the compositional difference. In Hunger Games, that makes a lot of sense because, there's two reasons why they probably did that for Hunger Games. One, because inside the actual Hunger Games is quite a dramatic experience, so changing the aspect ratio is probably a good idea to change the experience from normal to abnormal, and so going from whatever the normal, I don't know what the aspect ratio, did it say what the aspect ratio was?
The original or the
original?
I don't know, it's just wider.
Yeah, so whatever the original wideness was, they switched it from that, which probably looked more like a movie, to 16:9, which looked more like a TV show, which makes a lot of sense in the universe too, because it's how people look at it. So that's one way to think about it. Like in the universe itself, the capital people are watching this on TV. So that's like an interesting way to like symbolize that with the aspect ratio. Two, it gives you 16:9 tends to feel more spacious in general. It's like has like a nice ratio of width to height that makes it gives it like an overall spaciousness. So you can see a lot of the surroundings very well, above, below, side to side, which I think is appropriate for the Hunger Games. And an IMAX camera, which is not 16 by 9, but it's like more like 16 by 9 than it is like a normal, like the normal cinema aspect ratios.
Oh, in that case, it might have not been it might have been a little bit off. I thought it filled the whole screen, but could be wrong.
Yeah, I forget what the actual aspect ratio is. I think it's funky, but whatever it is, they probably did that as well because the camera shot in the aspect ratio, and two, because you want to switch to IMAX because IMAX automatically gives you a grand, like larger than life cinema like vibe immediately, just because of the larger film size. There's a whole bunch of optical things that happen that I won't go into, but it looks very grand. It looks like every Christopher Nolan film because he shoots in IMAX. It looks like those. So, yeah. So it's interesting. Yeah, it's not necessarily a new thing, but it's cool that people are noticing such things. Let's go to gaming. Also, thank you for that hot take, Pickle Platypus. Thank you for your commentary on film, Pickle Platypus.
Thank you for the link. Whoever sent that Hunger Games link, much appreciated.
All right, so let's see. This one's a gaming one, and I'm going to have to make this one bigger in a second. I can read it out loud. So it says, online-only games should not cost full price. What you get with an online-only game is a consumable product. If the game isn't successful, the disc becomes a coaster. Even if it is successful, once the servers go down, the disc becomes a coaster. The game should not cost full price because it has an expiration, unlike other games. So that's this person's hot take on r/unpopular opinion. So what's your thoughts?
I mean, if you bought milk that didn't expire, would you pay more for it? I think you would not buy it. I don't know if this makes much sense. Also, I don't think this is my quote. I don't recall, but it might have been an older one that I got. Yeah, I don't subscribe to that idea because it just depends on the value. Like, the value of the game is not entirely based on how long you can play it, right? Also, you arguably play like multiplayer game. Like, the consideration that's being taken into account here is how long you could play the game at any single instance, not how long you will play the game, if that makes sense, right? So, for example, take a story-based single-player game only, right? You can play the game theoretically forever, right? As long as the hardware supports it, which is pretty much going to be forever, right? Then even a multiplayer game where it's, okay, until the servers go down, which is a long time still, but it's not forever, definitely, right? Okay, cool. But in one game, the multiplayer game, you may get hundreds of hours because multiplayer games tend to be more replayable. That's kind of their point. They tend to be very static and the same kind of thing, but made so that you can do it over and over again, and it's still an interesting experience. While the single-player game, you might play it once, maybe play it twice, maybe you'll play it 3 times, and then you're done, and you may get a lot less hours out of it. So I think it's incredibly dumb. just basing, like, you could have said, like, you could make an argument like, oh, you get more hours out of a single player game. That's a lot more of a respectful argument than like the game will be unplayable in 10 years, therefore like it shouldn't be full price. Like, I mean, I don't know about that one. That doesn't make sense to me. Tons of games like, okay, Battlefield Bad Company 2 still has servers, I'm pretty sure, right? That game was older than 10 years. Battlefield 3 is 10 years old. Battlefield 3 also has servers. It's a pretty long time. And considering Battlefield Bad Company 2 is well-liked, it would seem that those servers are not going to go down for a long time. So, I mean, can you really say that people have definitely have thousands of hours on that game because it's been up for so long, if you've been with it this long. I don't think you could say, oh, I paid $60 for it. Boo, I got 2,000 hours. It's like a microcent per hour. Like, okay. But,
I still submit that games are a pretty cheap way to experience your life. It's like, well, if you separate, if it's a good quality online game, I mean, you're going to be spending many hours in there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I guess some people. I guess maybe some people's arguments are that they like a more variety than they like spending a lot of time in one game, and so their gaming life becomes expensive because they buy like a game a week or something like that because they like new experiences. But I mean, that's how you do, right? That's not how everyone does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think most people will buy it. Oh, I think it depends. I think about people actually I know who like just don't buy games pretty much ever. Like very rarely they'll buy a game. It only went on sale, and some people will be like, "Oh yeah, let me get this thing like immediately upon it releasing." I mean, but you haven't even played out the other game like fully. I don't know. Maybe it just depends person to person. Also, we have a chat message that says, "Dual game discs even make good cup coasters." Lol, didn't know that was a thing. I mean, I assume this is a bit of a bit of sarcasm. I don't think by the original post of this thing. I don't think people use them for coasters. I never heard of
No,
sort of
people use old CDs for coasters. I've seen that. Actually,
what?
yeah, because they
I feel like
became
that's
so.
like you're like disrespecting the art. What the heck? What?
Well, I don't know about
I,
games. Maybe like the really garbage ones, but like like what's a notoriously garbage CD game? I don't know, but you know,
hmm.
maybe not so much games, but I've seen CD coasters. You never seen those around? Like people using CDs as
Oh,
coasters.
like just the CD, or does that include the CD case?
Yeah, just the CD. Straight up, just putting your coffee
Why?
on the laser etched side.
Is it like highly effective? Is it just like 'cause it's like a thing you had and then you can just use it? Like
No, it's just supposed to look cool, I guess. I don't know.
I don't know.
They're
Okay, I've
circular. Your cup is
never.
circular. I don't know. Something like that.
I see. Huh, good to know, I guess.
So let's see. Oh yeah, fun. A Space Jam. So this is from r/unpopular opinion posted by Brandon the DJ. And Brandon the DJ says Space Jam 2 looks like absolute shite. And you're better off not going to see it. They should just let classic movies remain in the history books instead of trying to recreate them. In my unpopular opinion, once a classic is made like Space Jam, they should just let it be. There's countless other movies where the exact same thing happens. For another example, Interstellar. That movie is phenomenal. There's no need for Interstellar number 2. We gotta let movies just be. Sometimes Space Jam 2 with Megan the Stallion. I didn't know she was in it. That's interesting. Uh, oh, Megan the Stallion music. Oh, okay. So her music's in there. And then this BS. And I think that's the trailer. So I had the misfortune to watch the trailer for Space Jam 2. And it looks like to be absolutely garbage, and you should not spend a single dollar on that thing. If you expect that it might give you a single ounce of entertainment, not even like fun memeing entertainment, it looks like it's probably as bad as a Emoji Movie, like that kind of bad, where it's like it's not even funny. It's just terrible. um, so I agree with the sentiment about Space Jam 100%. I mean, that thing looks. Think about how simple it could have been for them to make money and make people at least neutral about another Space Jam movie. They just had to repeat the same story, basically, except with LeBron James. That's all they had to do. Like, just the same, basically do the same thing with LeBron James, like change a few plot points here and there and, different jokes, whatever. And everyone would have at least forgotten about their hideous mistake. It's bad. So yeah, I agree with the sentiment about Space Jam 2. Now this thing about remaking doesn't make sense because it's not a remake. That's what kind of confused me about this person's post is that Space Jam 2 is not a remake, and neither would Interstellar number 2 be, right? That would be a second
I
installment.
assume they just used the wrong term. I assume they just mean like just the second.
Yeah, well, if that's the case, I kind of disagree because there are plenty of movies that were written as singles, but then the same writer or filmmakers, or maybe even in rare cases, different people entirely, will make a second one and actually be good. Unfortunately, that's not the common experience, but it does happen. So, um, let's say The Godfather, right? The Godfather was written as a singular movie experience. But then they made Godfather Part 2, which is considered to be on par with Godfather Part 1, which is considered to be one of the best films of all time. So it's not bad to use success as a reason to make another one if you'll make the other one good. That's really just that's the only thing that matters is, will the next one be good? If Christopher Nolan wants to make an Interstellar Part 2, I don't really know how that would work story-wise, but, it could be good. So give it a chance. Space Jam is not in that echelon at all. I will say also, this is a separate hot take. The original Space Jam is extremely nostalgic, but it's not like, the best movie ever made. I mean, it's just kind of a nostalgic meme in retrospect. And I think a lot of people, they take movies that are like, I mean, they're more part of their childhood, and that's fine. It's great, that you love a movie from your childhood and you want to watch it and rewatch it and make fun of it and have fun with it. That's fine. But like, people sometimes get too much in their feels about like movies that weren't like, necessarily masterpieces to begin with anyway. So yeah, not that Space Jam's not a bad movie, I don't think. It's just, it is what it does, and what it does is not like terribly complicated. It's just literally just celebrity Michael Jordan being a mediocre actor and getting through some cool jokes with the actual entertaining characters, which are the Looney Tunes. And those Looney Tune characters in the original Space Jam are written more like Looney Tune characters, which makes it entertaining. Whereas with this Space Jam, I don't know what the heck those characters are, but they're not Looney Tunes characters.
I didn't watch the trailer, so I don't know what it's like.
If I wasn't afraid of copyright, I would just play it now because it's just that. I think you'll immediately understand why you can know it's trash before you watch it. It just reminds me of the Emoji Movie, where it's like trying too hard to do too many things and be relevant and cultural. And I don't know. It's bad. Don't watch it. Don't spend your money on it. I don't know. Watch something else. Watch A Quiet Place Part 2, which I have not seen, but looks very good. And you'll be backing cinema in a better way that way. Go watch that instead.
There's a chat message that says, quote, "But does it look as bad as the new Clifford movie? Question mark." End quote.
Well, yeah. So the Clifford movie, that's a different meme. Have you seen you've seen the trailer, right?
I've seen the trailer for Clifford, but not for Space Jam 2, so I can't compare personally.
Yeah, I don't know which is worse.
Oh no, that's bad. Considering, that Clifford one, that wasn't it. That wasn't the way to go. As
a 3D artist, what in your estimation was the quality of the 3D Clifford model and animation?
Well, for me, right, if I make that, I'd probably be the happiest man on earth, right? But like, coming out of like a studio with more than $0 is kind of concerning.
It is downright creepy, man. Like, Clifford shouldn't look like a vampire dog. Like I don't know. He just creeps me out. He's also not big enough, which is the oddest complaint that I have, but it's still a complaint.
Yeah, that's probably because it takes place in the city. Because I looked up Clifford, right? You look at the image; it's like one house in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. Oh man! For those who haven't who don't know, there is a Clifford movie coming out, and if you want to be scarred of your memories, all your good memories about Clifford the Big Red Dog, go watch the trailer, and you'll lose faith in humanity as they try to suck every dollar. Oh, I'll say this as my hot take: the movie's bad. It's definitely, I haven't seen it, but it is bad. Let's be honest. But they failed to actually even do something. Paramount, what are you doing? You made the movie in such a way that you couldn't even make good money off of it. Why? Because you made the movie PG somehow. What is wrong with you? The movie is PG. It's Clifford the Big Red Dog. Why is that not a G movie for like every 2-year-old to go watch on a weekend because the parents want to entertain them for like 2 seconds? They don't care if the movie is good or bad. The child doesn't really care if it's good or bad because they don't really understand what's going on. And you just automatically sell movie tickets to cover your almost bankrupt studio, Paramount. You could have done that, but instead, the movie ended up being PG. That's the biggest failure of Clifford the Big Red Dog, is that they probably won't even make that much money off of it. So slow clap for Paramount.
Yeah, I'm looking at the trailer again. So okay, I looked at images. It doesn't look that bad if you take Clifford and you like in the images he's just alone. You know what I'm saying? Looks a
Yeah,
lot better alone. Outside of the like just a white background. Outside of the real world, he looks a lot better. Um, but like yeah, when you watch the trailer, it's not the same. A lot worse. I
oh
think his
man,
face also looks like weird. I don't know what about it is. Doesn't
it's
strike me
creepy.
correctly. Yeah.
He's not a lovable big red dog like he is in the cartoon. And also, why is it
His
not a
animation's also
cartoon?
not good. That's points. Like, and he feels like he's weightless sometimes. Like
Yeah.
he's doing something. Like, okay, I'm watching this part where he's like rolling in the grass, and the grass doesn't deform the slightest bit. I mean, you put some like CG grass, right? I don't know. Like that's really like it just doesn't look right because like nothing is affected by his presence.
So producer wife Steph showed me this trailer, and then my first reaction when I looked at it was, when did they make this Clifford movie? And that's a genuine question because I thought I was looking at something from the '90s, straight up. That's how bad the 3D like animation was. It looked like something from like 1995 to me, and I was like, oh, you mean this is coming out now? That's crazy. That's actually crazy. But why not? One time, make a Clifford movie one time, I guess. So what does this one say? So this one looks like a bit of news. So this one's from r/gaming news, and the headline is Xbox head Phil Spencer criticizes Sony for forcing PC players to pay twice for games. And he said in the sub is in a recent media briefing, Spencer talked about Microsoft's PC strategy and mentioned how they disapprove of Sony's recent strategy plans, which, whilst Sony is planning to bring more first-party games to PC, don't expect them to launch on both platforms at the same time. And the quote from Mr. Spencer from Xbox is, "We're the only platform shipping games on PC, cloud, and console simultaneously." So then underneath it says, others bring console games to PC years later, not only making people buy their hardware up front, but then charging them a second time to play on PC. Now, can I say something before you react? Because like this is kind
Sure.
of a funny. In the past, like PC gaming was like a completely different like game. It was a different era in PC gaming, and so to say XYZ console game doesn't belong or it wasn't originally launched on PC, then was launched on PC like a few years later, that was like more normal back in that day because a lot more people had consoles than they had PCs. I don't know if that makes sense, but go ahead.
All right. So yeah. So for a bit of more. Okay. So first, so I found this thing on Reddit, but I just thought that there wasn't a Reddit comment that I found that was like interesting or whatever. I just took the quote of Mr. Spencer. I thought that was interesting. So it's the bottom part is just from the article that was linked. I just added that to the image. So
Gotcha.
yeah, from whatever website it was on, game-debate.com. All right. To elaborate on what he's talking about, essentially, the supposed problem is that people or the Sony will have it so that certain games are released earlier on the PlayStation, and then later they're ported to the PC, where they're then released there, right? What I should say is that at least all I know, right, is that games release later on PC than PlayStation sometimes, right? I'm not sure if I think it's that Sony has a deal with whoever, right, to prioritize launching on the PlayStation. It's not quite exclusive because they can launch anywhere else. Just priority is the PlayStation. Do that first, then you port to PC or Xbox or whatever, right? The problem he's saying, people paying twice, is that people buy the PlayStation game first because it's the first thing that comes out, and then but they rather have the PC version. So when the PC version comes out, then they buy it then, right? I don't know how many people he thinks have both a console and a game PC, and two are going to buy both. Like, going to buy both copies. It is true that like the distance between the releases are oftentimes large. Sometimes they're a few days. Like GTA came out on console, or not GTA. Red Dead came out on console a little before it came out on PC, if I remember correctly, right? It was only like a couple of days, I think. I don't think it was, or a few weeks, or whatever. It wasn't like years. But there are some games that take like 2 years, a year, or whatever, to arrive at PC. Supposedly, this is because they're porting the game to PC, and that takes time and stuff. I believe that's the reason given.
Mm.
Well, yeah, I don't see a problem with this. Like, you're effectively there are two different products, right? The thing on the PlayStation is not the same thing on the PC. That's why it takes effort to port it, right? There are things you need to change. They're not the exact same product. You're buying different products, you know? It's just one product was ready first because it was the product that was worked on first, right? I don't know if this is a problem. What do you want them to do? Just delay the release of the PlayStation one until the PC one comes out? I mean, Xbox doesn't like the way they roll is that I think everything comes out. I don't think they have these kinds of deals where you prioritize the Xbox. These things either exclusive or not. And one of the things is it doesn't necessarily matter even if it did come out later on PC, because the way that Microsoft does things is that if you buy, everything you buy is tied to your Microsoft account, right? So if you buy a game on Xbox, you also have it for PC as long as you log it on, as long as the game is available on PC, as long as you're logged onto your Microsoft account, which is definitely like a pro to Xbox gaming or whatever, right? But I mean, is that what should be expected, or is that like an exceptional thing? I would say it's more of an exceptional thing. Exceptional isn't a good thing. Yeah, a good thing. Not like something that's like, oh, should be the standard. Because not that long ago, Xbox didn't do that. This is not like something that Xbox has been doing for years or whatever, or maybe years, but been doing it for like a long time, and PlayStation just hasn't caught up, hasn't gotten with the times. Like, no, like, bro, maybe even within your working period, Mr. Spencer, I don't know when he came in, but maybe within the time he's been working here, that wasn't a thing, and that wasn't a problem seemingly to him,
This to me sounds like the most like salesman-y like angle you could possibly take. It's like the most like we've come out with this product and now we're going to contrast it as hard as possible against our competition, when it's like just an unreasonable comparison to be. Like, I mean, like I don't know, I just don't expect what he's saying. Like there's nothing about the past, like you said, that implies that it has to be this way or should be this way or something like that. It's like, to me, like a very obvious salesman-y kind of tactic.
Yeah, like the labor has been put in to make the port, right? Like you're gonna pay for that labor, right? It's like you think, like, does anyone complain about movies that like you can go to the movie theater, you buy the movie ticket, and when you get home you can't just get the DVD for free of the movie or stream it free? I don't think anyone thinks that's a problem, right? I've never heard anyone say, "Oh, I paid for the ticket, therefore I should have this movie forever," or whatever. Or I paid for Netflix or whatever, so I should have all these movies for free on DVD as well, or vice versa or whatever. I don't think it makes any sense.
Yeah, no, that doesn't make sense to me either. I feel like a lot of gaming salesmanship revolves around like not talking about the actual underlying business. Like a lot of the defense and offense is like that. Like he's just like trying to attack them by not talking about how like games make money to begin with, through their ports, how that process works at all. He's just throwing like a $2 like insult at like Sony, hoping that people will hear it and just get mad. Whereas on the defense side, that also happens where like the players will get mad at something, and instead of explaining the actual reason why it is the way it is, a lot of game studios will just, I don't know, say some $2 response and hope that like they'll eat that up, which I would say probably has a success rate of like 40% maybe. I don't know. I just feel like the game industry is oddly not transparent for an industry that's more modern. It's kind of strange to me.
I mean, being transparent doesn't always help. As you can see here is the Reddit comment section was just people being like, oh, well, at least somewhat people saying, oh yeah, he's right. I mean, it worked,
But he could have just, I mean, if he was honest with it long term, I feel like it'd be fine. Like people would just understand, oh, this is a benefit of Xbox. That's it. It's not a huge like I don't know. I mean, he can put it in a positive light. That doesn't bother me. It's just like the lack of pretending that there aren't problems with immediately putting games out on all platforms is just kind of like, well, I mean, people aren't stupid forever, you know? So, yeah, so we've been streaming for about 40 minutes now, 45 minutes. We're going to do something a little bit different where we split the podcast into a few different parts. And so here's one of the splits. In the future, there'll be probably a fancy stinger that happens here with like a whole animation and cool music and stuff like that. But clearly we're not there yet. But that's why we need your help. And the help that we need from you is not actually anything to do with money. We don't want money from you. Well, we do want money from you. That'd be great. But what we primarily want from you is your support. We would love to build a community. Our channels, our platforms as a podcasting platform are everywhere. We're on YouTube, we're on Rumble, we're on Twitch, we're on Podbean, Spotify, partially on SoundCloud. That's an evolving process. And basically, we're everywhere because we are a podcast, which means that sometimes it's not very clear to the audience how much of us there actually are. If you were to add a whole bunch of our views together across platforms, we probably get, if you're on YouTube right now, we probably get 10 times the amount of total exposure than you see in that view counter on YouTube, which is great, but that also means that you guys don't know each other out there and you guys aren't connected with each other and can't interact with each other very easily. So the biggest help you could do for this podcast is to join our Discord. We have a cool Discord server where we want to just be constantly talking about hot issues, about gaming, film, music, whatever. In the description right now, if you're on YouTube or if you're on Twitch, in our little about section, you'll find a link to our Discord. And you could also go to ariello.co/mixedmedia/discord. Here, I'll actually pull this off the screen so you can find a link to on the bottom of the screen there to everywhere you can find us. If you're listening to us on audio only, it's also in the description of the podcast.